to another episode of Spirit of an Athlete. I'm your host, Amanda Smith, and on this episode, I interviewed Michelle Wells. She is a nutrition coach, life coach, and an endurance athlete who's helping women in the 40-plus range with menopause, nutrition, and balancing their sports, motherhood, and all the other hats that we happen to wear as women in our 40s. I truly hope that you enjoy this episode with Michelle. Thanks for listening. Michelle Wells, thank you so much for being on Spirit of an Athlete with me and really sharing what you do and how you do it and why you do it, which really brings us to the very first question. Why do you work with 40-something-year-old women?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. And that is just a loaded question because my journey has been phenomenal. So why did I end up doing what I do, I suppose? So for me, training as an athlete, running, cross training has been quite predominant in my life for a number of reasons. And I'm a run leader, and I also run in a group community. And my background is like very much, my husband does triathlons, I do running and, various nutrition and stuff. And why do I work with them? Because first of all, it started that some of the women around that age, the perimenopausal age, were like really, really struggling with their own training. And they came to me and they were like, you seem to be clued up on the whole nutrition. Can you help me out? So I said, you're all right then. And I started doing that. I seemed to be quite good at it. But then what really happened to me and really pivoted me was I'm a phenomenally busy woman. Most of us are, right? And I literally was trying to sort out stuff on a Saturday and I came over with this massive grey hot flush, but it felt like I was drunk. And I was like, I haven't even reached for the bloody glass of wine yet, And I was trying to breathe it through. And my kids are looking at me going, what are you doing? Get a grip. And I was like, I really don't know. And I thought, okay, fine, it passed. And then I thought, get a grip, Michelle, what's going on? You've eaten right, you're exercising right, you're ticking the boxes. And then it was 3 or 4 days later, it just out of the blue, right? I felt like a cricket bat had hit me, and I was at like work and my corporate role as well as what I do coaching outside. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. And I literally then crumbled. I had fatigue, I had sore joints, I had anxiety everywhere. I was just done. And me being me, because I'm a bit of a geek, if I don't understand something, my survival method is, look, if I don't understand something, I'll go and learn about it. And I kind of like did a bit of research, and somebody sort of said, Michelle, are you in the menopause? And I was like, well, not really sure. I don't have time to like think about this. And my history was, right, well, I had my children and then I went on an implant, and then my husband and I decided that it was time that I was coming off the implant, but didn't want another kid. God no, 2 was enough. And therefore I sort of said, could you go and have a snip? And then I came off the implant and I had nothing for a whole year. Nothing. Just nothing. And I thought, okay, fine. So I went and said, can I have the blood test? And it confirmed that I was in the menopause. And I was like, geez. And that really then started me to delve into the more research base. What does that actually mean, particularly for an athlete, right? Because the pain, the sore joints. But on top of all of that, perimenopausal starts at least 10 years, beforehand. And I was like, oh, okay, I've got a lot of these symptoms that I just thought was me. And they weren't. And I was like, this is intense. Okay, this is really intense. And at the same time, I'm still training. And I was like, right, okay, let's focus on the nutrition, because nutrition is my speciality, my bag, right? So I then started to look at, and at the same time, my son was diagnosed with pyrrole disorder. And I was like trying to research that. And I was like, geez, right. So it ended up that I did a lot of research on Mediterranean diets, a lot of research on the Japanese and the Chinese culture, and they had less symptoms. So I thought, because I clearly don't want to just always pump myself with drugs or supplements, okay? Because, it's not the best thing in the world. So I then started looking with that, and I thought, this is intense, okay? There is so much out there, and there's also so little out there. And I thought, do you know something? My friend said to me, Michelle, you seem to be good at this. Like, you seem to educate, you want to serve. Have you thought this might be your purpose? And in between all of that, because obviously my traumatic childhood and everything else, I've been doing lots of different personal development. I'm qualified as a life coach. And I thought, oh, you might be onto something here. And actually, I sat down and I go, well, everybody's here for a purpose. And what really excites me, and it kept coming back over my 40 odd years of, well, actually, it's looking at your nutrition, your lifestyle, your exercise. Don't get me wrong, I do like a cake and I do like my wine, but it's, you've got to kind of get into this. And then I was like, but I also like my running. I certainly don't want to get old. You read people that are 100 that are still running marathons, and I'm like, okay, I like the variety of the training that I do, but I can't just keep doing my training routine that I'm still doing in my 30s, because it's not suitable. So it then came from nutrition to then a bit more about movement to then a bit about, well, actually, there are some days where I just get out of bed and I'm like, I'm knackered. Okay, so what do you do instead? What's your self-care? Because then it's the self-care, because if you don't do the self-care, you can't perform. And then there's also this manifestation, which I did do an Amsterdam marathon a couple of years ago, and I knew what time I wanted to get. So I started manifesting this, and people like my husband, bless him, he just looks at me as if I'm going gaga. And I'm like, no. I started 3 months ago, okay, writing that I am going to get this time. And I kept on this mantra. I didn't see any of Amsterdam apart from people's ankles, because I just kept on going with my mantra of, I'm going to get 3 hours, 47 minutes and 49 seconds. And I actually came just a minute over that. But, it's that side of things. So everything that I was doing for me, I had other people that were asking me about it from my community. And then I was like, well, there must be tons of other people, but I don't just work with athletes, because you have got other women that are busy mums. They feel like they've lost their identity. They have no idea where they're starting. Majority of my clients seem to be very high in sugar, very sugar dependent. And it's working with them to go, actually, you don't have to be like me. Okay. What I do can be applied to anybody in any shape or form. You do not have to run a marathon. You do not have to run an ultra. You do not have to run. Okay. But what you do need to do is some sort of movement. Okay. And something you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, it doesn't become a sustainable habit. What you do need to do is go, you've only have one body. So accept your bloody body. Okay. It's there to serve you. And instead of stuffing it with rubbish, why don't you occasionally stuff it with rubbish and make it as a treat, but make sure that you're feeding it to help with some of those menopausal symptoms, help with feeling engaged with your children or your work or your career, and really like taking it and looking at you holistically. Let me break down the research, okay? Because otherwise you just go, I was overwhelmed. And me and social media, or media, I should say, everything media is all about doom scrolling, or you've got to look at this size and say that, some of them will buy dresses that are 2 sizes down. And it's like, no, embrace this, okay? There is so much you can do to help with your body, but there is also other stuff that you can't. So set where you are now. And then through some of that, it was like we worked on relationships with themselves, relationships with their partners or their children, or with other people within their organization career-wise. And that's really where I started, just because I didn't want to stop doing what I enjoyed doing. And it hit me, and I was like, no. We don't do and just lie down. and roll over and go, okay, let's take it. Let's go and find out what we can do to make sure this works for you. Found out what my true purpose is. And now I support lots of people.
Oh my gosh. Okay, there's a lot to unpack here. Michelle, thank you for sharing all of that. There's a lot to unpack here. Okay, when on the Gutsy Chick quiz, I would instantaneously go, "You're a bruiser." But then as we go through what you've been talking about, I'm like, "Oh no. She's also a brainster." Because you love that research piece. And it's interesting to see how you flow through those two archetypes in the Gutsy Chick quiz that I created. So let's unpack that. When you started getting your menopause, perimenopause symptoms, were you still on some form of birth control?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. So you had the birth control, you had that hot flash, that one hot flash that just blew you over essentially.
So at the time of having the hot flash, I wasn't on birth
Okay.
control. But all the other perimenopausal symptoms like vaginal dryness, loss of libido, that those were the things that were prevalent.
Oh.
That was majority. And I just thought it was me. And the sore joints,
The sore joints was,
I just thought it was me. And then when the rest of it came, obviously more intensified when I came off that, because I wanted, I wanted a clear body.
No, I completely understand that. This audience knows we tend toward holistic practices. We don't want to lean on and be in the Western medicine rigmarole. And supplementation is okay as long as we're using it to get to a holistic state. So I love that fact that you fit that bill perfectly. Sore joints wasn't enough because as a runner, as someone who is an endurance athlete, you probably experience sore joints here and there. Am I right?
Yeah, I think for me, I started running A to lose weight back in my sort of 20s, okay, because I was large now. I've been through a traumatic experiences, and I just wanted to be anybody but the person I was. All right. And I started to run to lose weight, and then I found I enjoyed it. And then it came to the point of I fell pregnant after trying for many years, and I was like, I don't want to be a fat mum. So, when you're like, okay, and I used to, I kind of like cross training as well. So I used to carry my eldest, put him on the side after the first feed in the morning. I'd be swimming up and down while he was sleeping. It's great when you have a child because you feed them in their sleep until they get older. And then it was like, then from that, it was very much, I was like, okay, I need this for my mental stability. Okay. And then you're juggling. So it was very much, I was like, I get up really early in the morning because my husband's more of a night person. So he trains in the night. So, you've got to juggle between the two of you. And the morning I'd get up before the kids so I could have that time for me. So yeah, I had the sore joints and I had a few injuries as well. Certainly with my back. Because I'm of a slim build, you've got that compounding. So, and I have, and I still have because of it, this real sort of like tight hip pain, and it does weigh down on you completely. So it isn't just, it's knowing what I know now. As you go into the menopause, you lose your lubrication. So hence your fascia gets tight, you get like the sore joints. And sore joints is not just, oh, you've run too much, which is what predominantly I was like, geez, I used to be able to run 5-6 times a week and not feel a thing. And now it's like, this just really hurts. So it's trying to piece all of that together to go, I can't stop doing this because otherwise, literally, I probably would murder everybody around me, because I need that time out.
Yes.
I just need to be able to clear my brain, then go, right, what's the next role I'm playing? So you have the role that you are, so the person, so me, my personal identity. And yes, I do like pineapple on my pizza. Very good question if you want to try and find out. Start, if you want to find out the type of person you are, first of all, say, what do you like? And do you like pineapple on pizza? Great debate. So, so you've got to find out who you are, and then you've got to have some of that time. By the time I've then finished my training, even now, and my kids are like teenagers, they've managed to pull themselves out of bed, get themselves dressed, ready for school. And yes, I do pay them for chores. So go and empty the dishwasher. And by the way, I do work full time, so you do need to sort out your washing. But then I can become mum. And in between, I quickly become mum. Then I go and shower, stick my makeup on. I go and become, my corporate role, or I become a coach, or I become my podcaster role. And this is where I think it's really important, particularly for us women in menopause. You've either spent a lot of your time dedicated to your children, or you are doing 5, 6, 7 different roles within the day, even for it's 5 minutes, and you're having to switch your brain. Okay, so you have not got time for sore joints. You have not got time to go, I can't be arsing around with trying to work out what I need. I need to know, like, some sort of routine, as in I need to be able to serve my body. I've got to get so-and-so there. I've got to have enough energy. I haven't got time to just sit down and take a nap in the afternoon. Right. And this is where I think, as an athlete, I've added that intensity because I like to train, but equally, the same principles that apply to us as athletes applies to any person, male, female, or other, whichever binary that you choose. The same principles apply. There is, the concept that males go through in the menopause. But equally, you could be in your 20s and you're just not feeding your body to serve your lifestyle.
Right. So it wasn't just sore joints that made you go, something's wrong here. Because I think the assumption with women that are doing sports or just existing, general existence, when we get sore joints, it's like, oh, I'm getting old. And we succumb to that. Yeah. We're just like, yes, okay, that's life now. And for you, what you realized is that was perimenopause. That was one of the signs of what was going on. All the dryness that you mentioned, definitely something to highlight for the listeners. If if you're experiencing any of those things, dig deeper into perimenopause. Yeah. Yeah, you agree. Okay, you brought up your podcast. I want to highlight that right now because it has everything to do with what we're talking about here. What's the name of your podcast?
Absolutely. It's Menopausal Women's Show for nutritional health and wellness.
Yes.
I absolutely love doing it.
Oh my.
I love doing it. I don't know why.
I love doing this because I get to meet amazing people like you who are helping women in the world to figure out how to navigate their bodies and their athletics at the same time. That's why I'm here. Okay, so you mentioned your husband is also an athlete. How do you guys balance your schedule of both of you being athletes as well as having 2 teenagers?
So let's just backtrack here, right? We both were, when we first met, completely type, he's younger than me, so it wasn't like the whole fireworks. And drunken kiss, and then I was like, I need some food. So we went for some food and then found out we started to have things in common. So he used to do ice climbing.
Yes.
We climbed mountains. My kids have done all 3 peaks in the UK.
Wait, there are peaks in the UK?
Yeah, so we've got so your biggest peak, which was probably out in America you would go, is Ben Nevis. So, and then there's the smallest one is Scarfell Pike, but it's quite technical. And then you've got Snowdon, and Snowdon's probably one that you might recognize because it's a UTB. There's a UTB event that goes for it. And so we kind of had that in common. he did a bit more running, and I was a bit of a gym to start off with, And then we decided we'll try for children, which was difficult. But one of the things that came up is I was like, when we first got together, we were like, okay, we need to set some boundaries. There are certain things that I do. And first of all, he was like, well, I always go to the pub with my mates on a Saturday. And I was like, fine, because I'm quite happy in my own company, love. Okay. And equally, I can go out and see mine. And I do not mind going to the cinema on my own. Okay. Right. That's me. I'm quite happy in my own skin. And then obviously kids, we're trying for kids. And I was like, I am not going to be one of these mummies, okay, that gives up on my whole entire life and lose my identity completely. And he's like, well, I'm not giving up my enjoyment. They will just have to do. So imagine this, right? My husband does triathlons, which is a swim bike run. Okay. Both my kids, within 4 weeks of being born, have attended a wedding. So I've literally given birth, we're sleep deprived, and I've got kids under my arms and we're going to a wedding, right? So we then get to, right, he's doing an event, and Harry is what, 6 months old, right? So he's a weaning her nipper. Oh, no. We get up early. I've got picnic breakfast in my backpack for me, right? Okay. And he's there. Okay, we'll go and see daddy first, and then we'll go off and we'll play in the park and what have you when he's on his bike, because clearly you don't see them on the bike, and then we'll go back for the run. They've been with us every step of the way, right?
What's that?
And so you then have to work out, I'm a morning person, he's a night person. So if you are thinking about being, starting, when's your best time? I can even to just putting it into when we go on holiday, if we're driving, I'll do the first stint. Okay. And then don't talk to me sort of after lunch until I've had a snooze, because he will take in and do sort of like the more night, afternoon and night if it's a long journey. So, and I don't think twice of, right, okay, well, it's picnic breakfast, because I'm not paying some of the extortionate prices of there's 4 of us, and it's like 40 quid's worth of cooked breakfast, and I'm having my nice little muesli and a sort of like natural yogurt, and they're tucking into like the big fryer, which is great. I do some of it, but yeah, they make up for what I don't eat. And so we have to kind of juggle it. And then when it comes to training, I think probably this year. So this year is intense for us because Andrew is actually doing the full Ironman, a 10B one. And that's again a sort of like worldwide renowned 10B Ironman. He's done triathlons, but never done a full Ironman. So to put this into context, he's got to swim 2 miles, got a mile transition, 112-mile bike ride, and then he's got to get off and run a marathon. Yeah. So that's intense training. He is training on a Saturday and Sunday for virtually 5 hours. So I'm a single mum. But what we did was we go, right, this is what your dad wants to do. Okay, now that they're teenagers, they run themselves. They can run up to probably 5 miles. My eldest has done his race, 45 minutes flat, very hilly race. My youngest is more of a sprinter. He kind of likes the park runs, which is a 5K. They swim, they bike. I mean, we did last year on a holiday, we did a 30-mile bike ride. Obviously it stops and then costs me an arm and a leg in cake and everything else to feed them, but you just go, it just depends. They very much outdoorsy. We climb, so it's not as if they're not used to it, but this is quite intense for us. And Andrew is very tired now. For me, and because of my work, when we first got together, we were starting to look at, right, what running events was I doing? What running events was he doing? Even when we did the same event, I would train on a Saturday, he would train on a Sunday. And even now, because my kids are older and I can leave them in bed festering for a bit, I get up very early on the Saturday morning and start my training, and he's only out for a short time. By the time I've got back, he then goes back out. And then on Sunday is my rest day, and I go to the kids, right, fill your boots. I've got to do the prep for the rest of the week and start preparing that. So it's all of this. But I think then what it is for me is that we started to look at nutrition for us individually is now, and nutrition is quite an interesting subject because everybody's unique.
Yes.
And what we found with both of us is that I couldn't have pasta the day before unless I was doing trail running, because trail running and road running are very, very different extremes. So we would have the pasta dish on the Friday, then a high protein on a Saturday, and then obviously you've got your race breakfast or your race breakfast. Now, for me, I can get up on my stretching before an event and try any event is more important, particularly now that I'm older. So I can have like a race breakfast, and about an hour later, I'll be ready to go and do whatever I'm doing. The difference being is that my husband can't do that. So we have to then schedule in him to go, okay, you're going to have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to get your breakfast. So we have to prepare that. So it's kind of like when we decide, and it's very much he does one thing one year and I'll do something in the other year. So like next year in 2025, I'm thinking about doing an ultra. I did my first ultra was 50k. This one will be 100k. Same concept as him. He will be out for 13 hours, between 10 and 13 hours for his event. Same thing. The one thing I won't do is I actually supported another ultra athlete. She needed a crew because she was doing 100 miles. I don't know what that is in K. And that meant she had to go overnight. And so it was really, really hot for her. She had to do the first, I think, 50 miles on her own. And then her support crew could kick in. And I'd taken her from about 4 o'clock in the afternoon until 11 o'clock at night. And then I handed her over to my husband, who crewed her through the rest. Now, if you're thinking this woman is running 100 miles, okay, she's dehydrated, she's tired, she is walking some of it, she's running some of it, she's all over the place, she has not got all her senses, okay, particularly if she's not fueling. So you as a support crew have to go through the night. And I said to my husband, I said, I'd much rather do a 2-day event and actually enjoy it than actually be that entirely broken. Yeah. So when you become an athlete, you have to think about, well, what is it? Now, for me, very much, I like the running. I started off doing 10Ks, you know, I started off then doing marathons. I fell in love with trail running. And just in June this year, I did June 2024, I did Giant's Head Marathon. Absolutely epic. The only reason I did it was because I got a medal with a willy in it that spins, so that was great.
Love it.
But it's very, very different. So for us, we have to think about the complexity, what his boundaries are, what my boundaries, but equally because of where I am, I have also been trying to get what it'd be like for him. I'm not a great swimmer. I actually got on, I'm not a race wetsuit. I got on just a standard bog beach wetsuit. I swam in a lake, which was freezing compared to what you might have out in America. 45 minutes, suffered slightly hypothermia, had to kind of redo that just so that I could experience what he is experiencing, so that I know what I need to fuel him with. Because when you're doing this Ironman or any event, you've got to work out what your fueling strategy is. He will not be able to, his race breakfast is going to fuel him through his swim. But then the only time I'm going to be able to feed him will be on the bike. What does that look like? And then when he gets off that bike, he will go to gels. And gels is a whole different subject. When I'm doing trail running, I will eat real food, because trail running is a bit more of, oh, you run a bit, then you walk a bit, you look at the hill, and it's like this, and you're going, I'm going to walk that because that's going to be quicker to walk up than run. Okay. So then you stuff your face with a cheese and Marmite sandwich or, you know, an homemade energy ball. With gels, I use gels for Amsterdam, but then again, you need to research. One, I don't do caffeine gels because so many people have done overdose on caffeine through using them. Two, they have to be taken slowly and they have to be taken with water to get into your bloodstream. Three, I already have food intolerances, and as you go through the menopause, you will find that you may develop intolerances because of the hormone changes. You may find that you become gluten intolerant. Everything you did in your 20s, you cannot do in menopause. You cannot just, because your body has changed, the whole dynamics has changed. And you need to understand that, particularly if you are in your 40s, you are an athlete, you need to really get to grips with this. And therefore, if you're using gels, I go for a sort of more vegan brand. And again, with protein, whey protein is actually quite processed. And because one of the mantras is your body will find it harder to break down ultra processed food. And some of the vegan brand stuff is ultra processed. And obviously, there's a reason why they make it ultra processed. So you really need to think about you as your body, how best to feed it to survive. So with the both of us, we've got your morning, I'm morning, your night, but then we've got to look at the intensity, scheduling in the time that he's gonna need to recover and be able to connect with his children. Now, for me as a mother, I could probably run faster than what I do, but I don't want a broken bone. I do not have the luxury to go over that line and then just lie on the couch for the rest of the bloody day. I've got to shower, refuel, get in a bath, crack open the champagne if it's a significant event. Okay. Plus also then make sure that the kids' school uniforms are in, that they're fed. I do remember it was only a London 10K. And we'd done a picnic breakfast, got there, and I went off and I said to Andrew, I've packed some cakes for the boys, make sure they have that. I literally got over the line about 11 o'clock in the morning. And the kids were like, is it lunchtime yet? And I was over, I was like, have you actually fed them? Oh no, I forgot. And they didn't really ask.
Oh no.
And so as a mum and a training athlete and all the other roles you're doing, you kind of go, you don't have the luxury to just go, I've just done an event, crack on, everybody. And that's where you have to then go, what's the different mindset? Now, I know he does not do sleep deprivation either. And I know he'll do the event and that's him wiped out for the rest of the bloody week, right?
Yep.
So again, you just have to think about when you're training and what's your boundaries, what's the requirement. Now he knows that for me, I do have a training schedule during the week. Yes, it does vary, but that's my non-negotiable. Really sorry, because you'll see the horrible Michelle, not the nice Michelle. And then he has his non-negotiables. And then when you come to do an event, we then have to be collective to set the boundaries and what that means. And, I've asked him to do things and then I threw my toys out the pram at the weekend and just ended up going to the tip myself and clearing out this and selling that and tidying up the garden just because he's too tired. But yeah, I said that.
All right. I want to highlight a couple of things that you mentioned about menopause in that answer. So our hormones are shifting, which means the way that we feed ourselves has to be tested, experimented with, and potentially changed because we could develop food allergies or certain things like this. I experienced this actually just after getting my cycle. So just after puberty, I became gluten intolerant. Didn't know it until much later, but that was a thing that I had to deal with then. And this happens every time we go through a major hormone shift. So not just menopause, but pregnancy, puberty. So for my listeners who have kids, daughters who are going through puberty, you've got to start to look at their food and test it out and see, okay, is this something that she can still tolerate? There's a whole process for that. Do you take your people through a process of testing different foods to find out if they have allergies, or do you suggest they go take a test? How do you handle that with your clients?
So my first and one-stop shop, is you need to give me a food diary. The amount of people that don't actually know what they're eating. And when I say food diary, I want to know what you're eating, the time you're eating, and how does it make you feel?
Yes.
Because if people are saying to me, and equally, like, what are they doing? Are they dieting because what's their goal? Well, we both know diets do not work, and they certainly do not work in menopause. Okay. You
Certain diets. I mean, feeding ourselves is technically a diet, but then when we drop into how media has shifted our mentality around what diet is, we're
it is.
thinking, keto diets. And we're thinking about the Mediterranean diet and the myriad of diets that are out there. So, yes, I completely agree.
And
Dieting during menopause is just a bad idea. Your body's working hard enough.
exactly. And what a lot of people, a lot of women I coach is they don't do carbs. I'm like, no, no, no,
You
no,
need
no.
those.
You need some form of carbs, but good
Yes.
carbs. Because even though you're not having a cycle, your body still needs that. And even when you're in a cycle, you do need some form of carbs because it's kickstarting the processes. And what I do, the first one-stop shop, give me a food diary. And that actually stops a lot of people because they're going,
Yeah.
oh, I am really dependent on sugar. Plus, also, my energy levels drop then. And certainly, like with some of my athletes that I've coached, I'm just going, well, you're doing a session in the evening, but you've hardly eaten anything during the day. And then all you're doing is going home and having a bowl of cereal. And then you expect to be okay the following day.
Nope.
And they're like, oh. So it's like, no, you fuel for when you are training. So in that scenario, I'm going, it's a high protein breakfast, okay, that it starts giving you the energy levels. It's a bigger meal at lunchtime. Yes, have snacks. Have a snack before you come out. And then because of the way the menopause in your body works, you don't want a high, like really intense feed afterwards. So poached egg on toast, an omelette, beans on toast, a feta cheese salad with a bit of halloumi. There are ways and means that you can actually have that, and then you go and then kick in again with a high protein breakfast because your body is still recovering from the night before.
Yes.
And so that's where I first start.
Love it.
Okay. Because it's working out. And you go, if you are eating something with gluten in and you are doubled up in pain or you feel sick, well, then let's explore that. Let's explore the different types of things. And are you having what we would class as your good fats? Is it a balanced diet? Is it a rainbow of colors? Because there's I can't now eat broccoli.
Yep.
Because it really pains me. And I used to be able to eat broccoli. So you have to think about how you're cooking your vegetables, what's beneficial. I eat more butternut now because that's carbs and minerals and stuff. And again, you've got to think about the minerals that are going into your body because that all serves purposes.
Yep. It's interesting to take people through that education and help them understand, okay, this is what a healthy carb is. This is what, and I like to break it down into complex carbs and simple carbs, and then starchy carbs, because for some reason, when we get drier in menopause, we tend to get dry through the throat, and it's hard to actually digest in the upper part of our digestive system some of those foods. And starches tend to be the ones that people have an issue with because they already tend toward that chalkier, drier state. Oh, so many things. So many things. Healthy fats versus unhealthy fats. Unhealthy fats is anything that's processed. But then healthy fats, how much of those should we be consuming, especially going into menopause? Have you noticed that you need more healthy fats now that you're in that state of menopause? Because those are the things that lubricate you.
Exactly. Absolutely. 100%. I had a bit of an issue. I still have slight issue with avocados. The only reason being
Did you overdo it?
is no, no. I'm reformed from disordered eating, and the reason being is all I saw as a kid. Bearing in mind that my mum was born 1948, so just out of the war type thing, is she very much would stuff her face Okay. And then the following day say to me, being quite impressionable, oh, now I need to go on a diet. And then would starve herself. And one of the things that she used to do would be avocados with prawns. And I I liked it, but then that stuck with me that she was quite not she was not on the slim side, but not perhaps until her later years on the clinically obese side. And that stuck with me. And I was like, oh, I can't do avocados. I can't do avocados. And everybody said it when I got to menopause, Michelle, you're going to have to do avocados. And I was like, I really can't. I really can't. I really can't. And then actually, I was like, Michelle, come on, do what you normally do, go and research. And I did. And you can have an avocado a day for 6 months, and you will find they will make no difference to your weight. But you need those avocados, you need the olive oils, because literally, despite drinking 3-4 liters of water a day, that ain't gonna cut it. Okay. And equally, if you're an athlete, finding that you're losing that hydration, you're then sweating. So actually, don't just rely on electrolytes from your food. I now have an electrolyte drink every day, and that has also increased my performance, but also my husband's, because I then went, I really think you need to have an electrolyte now. And he's a couple of years younger than me, but he's in his 40s. He's like, oh, actually, yeah, this is really working. And this is where there is so much to being in the menopause that it is overwhelming. Overwhelming if you're training, it's intensified if you're training, and it's equally just overwhelming for your average woman, okay, that isn't an athlete. And this is where I just go, my purpose is to go and learn this, package it up into simple bite-sized pieces for people, to say, I'm not asking you to eat the whole elephant. Okay. I'm asking you to make one baby step, just one step. And if that is, you just change your breakfast to add a bit more high protein in it, let's just do that for the next few months, see how it goes. If it just means that you are sitting and having a bath for 10 minutes, or you've taken yourself out to a coffee shop and just been on your own so that you do not feel overwhelmed, or even digital detox. Yes. Okay, stop doing scrolling. Just one baby step in order to be better than you were yesterday. And this goes back to, for us as athletes, what is it? And we're very much control freaks, I have to say. What's the reason why we do what we do is because we want to know what our body is capable of. We want to achieve those goals. And also for many of us, it's a control mechanism, because actually there's too much noise in the rest of the world. Okay, that sometimes you do get overwhelmed, full stop. And, it could be a personal goal that you want to be running a marathon at 100. But with athletes, we've all got our own reason for doing it. You then get the complexity of a life challenge, and that could be a divorce, it could be the menopause, it could be anything. You will find that your control mechanism is your sport,
which is a version of self-care.
Which is a version of self-care. Yep. And so then actually what we do is, okay, let's break it down. Because if you're like me, I was like, I cannot stop what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got to make this work for me. I cannot stop it. Don't ask me to stop it. It's, it's like, oh my God, I'm a cage animal. Yeah. I can take a break for you, or I can do some other different form, and yoga being one of the better ones because you can do still strength and training. You can do that. Yoga, yin yoga really helps with the fascia, so you've got to think about ways to serve you and what you are going through. And all I do is I go, right, let's start off with what's your step, one baby step. Let's get overwhelmed, because Rome wasn't built in a day. One step leads to another step, and eventually you'll run a marathon.
Nice. I love that. Michelle, where can people find you on the internet so that they can follow you, listen to your podcast, all the good things about what you're sharing for women that are going through perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, really.
Right. So breathe. Here we go. So my website is michellewells.co.uk, where you can find out a bit more about me, my trauma, and the reason why I ended up doing what I'm doing. Some of my blog posts are on there. You can also find me for the podcast. I'm on Spotify, Apple, and I have a YouTube channel. So all of that. You can also find me on Instagram. And follow me there, and then equally just reach out to me via info@michellewells.co.uk.
Excellent. All of that will be in the show notes, so you guys can go find Michelle. Michelle, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and sharing your experience and how you got to where you are today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Spirit of an Athlete podcast. If you're struggling with your own gut issues and want more direction, you can get an initial body scan from Amanda at bodywhisperhealing.com. In 20 minutes, you can find out what's wrong, get clarity, map the path forward, and get on track to get back in your game. If this episode hits the spot, please let us know by rating, reviewing, and sharing it with a friend. Subscribe now to hear more inspiring stories from other female college athletes who overcame their health issues. Want more, Amanda? Get inspired by finding more at bodywhisperhealing.com.